I'm George Pearson, and these are just a few examples from some of the training videos I have here on YouTube. Now, when you're working with the training, following along the training, if you want to get the materials I used in the training, just go to the description down below and click on the link that's at the top of the description, and this will take you to a page where you can download the materials. Please subscribe, click the like button, and of course always share on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the video. In this Photoshop Elements video, we'll be doing this Valentine's Day card. Now it looks pretty complex, but that's really just kind of a visual distraction. There's a lot of little things going on here which makes it look far more complex than it actually is. This really is a pretty straightforward and simple procedure. Okay, let's go ahead and make this Valentine's Day card. We'll start off with a brand new file. So new, blank file. I have mine set at the default Photoshop Elements size, which is 6x4 at 300 resolution pixels per inch. I'm using inches on this. Choose OK. There we go. Now we need to have our background layers in there. And before I go any further, I'm going to reset my colors down here to black and white. There we go. Okay, now those background layers are used or made by using the graphics down here. Click on the graphics button. And I'm working in Photoshop Elements 15. So if you find that the buttons are in different spots, just bear that in mind that they were moved. Some things were moved, like the effects button was moved, for instance, in version 15. Okay, so go to the graphics, and then in graphics go to backgrounds. And we're going to be putting in two different backgrounds here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. And there we go. The first one I want is right here. That's called Red Hearts, as you can see. And simply double click on that to place that onto your page. Now, if you see a light blue or medium blue triangle in the upper right hand corner of that, then it's going to have to download this from online before you can do this. Now, they're all available. They're just sitting up on Adobe's server when you first install the program. So you may have to wait just a moment for it to download, and you will need to be attached to the internet to get that. So here's our red hearts. Let's now go to the layers and drag the background up to the new layer button, exit a copy, and then go back down here to the background. The reason I do that is so I can make another background down here, because whenever you add in a background, it simply changes the background. So I want to keep this one and add a different background down here. Okay, back to our graphics. We're still on our backgrounds, and I'm going to just roll down. I'm using the wheel on my mouse right now. I'll just roll down a little bit for another background here, another one of their Valentine's Day backgrounds. This particular video uses a lot of the built-in stuff from Photoshop Elements. There we go. That's one you want. It's called Flourish Heart. Same thing. If you see a little blue triangle there, it's going to need to download as well. So double click on that, and that brings that in. Now I don't see it because it's in behind this layer. Go back to our layers. There we are. There's the background, and here's the other one. If I hide that layer, there's that Flourish Hearts right there. Okay, go up to this layer. Now we're going to be adding in a temporary layer right now. I want to put in an ellipse in here and use that to create a mask so we only see just the middle of this on top of that other background. Okay, so I'm going to hide this for a second. Back to our background layer. Be putting in guidelines right now. And to do that, let's go up to View, Show Your Rulers if they're not already showing. And then we want to have one at 3 inches and then one at 2 inches. So View, New Guide. The vertical guide is going to be at 3 inches. Type in 3 and choose OK. Basically halfway through. It's a 6-inch wide, so 3 inches. And then the next new guide, go to horizontal, set that at 2. And again, it's 4 inches tall, so 2 inches is halfway. That just gives crosshairs at that midpoint of the page. Now go over to the Ellipse Tool. Make sure you have black on here. It doesn't really matter, but black is easy to use. There's the ellipse. Set this at unconstrained and from center right there. Then take your crosshair and put it right over the middle. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly exact, but pretty close. Over the middle, click and drag this out and make this about halfway up and halfway out on those guidelines. Again, doesn't need to be exact, so about here is fine, just like that. That's all we need those guides for. So we can now hide the guides and the rulers if you don't want to be looking at those. Let's hide the rulers, hide the guides. Go to the magic wand and click inside here. Now it's going to ask you to simplify the layer. That's fine. Click on that and choose OK. That then makes that selection. Let's go back to our background up here, our secondary background layer. There we go, little kind of red hearts background. We have our selection on this, and then hit the layer mask button, and it gives us a layer mask of just that. So that takes care of that. We can now hide that layer. We're done with that actually. Now on the layer mask itself, look for that light blue outline. If you don't see that, if it's over here like this, just double click. You see the light blue outline? So we're on the layer mask, and I want a soft edge on this layer mask. So back to my move tool, up here to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and set this at 50. This is just a nice kind of a soft edge there, and choose OK. This will give us that lighter area inside of the heart when we put our heart on here. Okay, background is finished. There we go. Let's now put the heart on. Get to work on our heart shape. So back over here to our graphics and change this to shapes. We're looking at our shapes. Now we're about halfway, about maybe a little less than halfway down. Let us scroll down a bit further on this list here. Little past halfway, almost 2/3 of the way down, and there's a couple of hearts in here. You want this one. So let's double click on that and bring that in. Grab the corner and let's make this about that big. Notice how it's just about a little larger than the glow we have now in the background. So about like that, anywhere around in here. Again, doesn't have to be exact on this. Just choose OK. Click on that green arrow. Now come outside. Let's see if you bring your cursor just outside the corner, you get this kind of a bent arrow effect right there. Click that and begin pulling it around. At that point, come down here to the options panel and let's change this to 15 degrees. So there's our rotation. Rotated. Now you want to select this. I'll go back to our layers again. There we are. Now it's still as a shape, so if I select this with the magic wand, it's going to ask us to simplify. There we go. Choose OK. There is our basic shape, and it's selected. Go up to the Select tab and come down to Modify and Contract. And contract that by 50 pixels and choose OK. Just comes in a bit like that. Now hit the Delete key, and that cuts the middle out of it. And then we can just deselect that. Okay, there's the basic heart shape. Now you can move it around a bit if you want to. It's up to you. Looks pretty good just like that. So notice how this background layer now is working kind of like a glow in behind that. I don't mind the spill. It adds a little bit of interest to this image. We're now going to put in our chrome effect and then make it into a gold effect. So come down to our Styles button. And again, if you're in an earlier version of Photoshop Elements, that's going to be up on the Effects tab, and then Filters and Styles are on tabs up here at the top instead of on buttons down below. Only real change there. Now go to Wow Chrome and look for the lightest of them, which is the Wow Chrome Shiny Edge. And double click on that, and it gives you a nice kind of chrome shape edge. There we go. There's a nice little chrome heart on there. Okay, back to our layers. Now I want this in gold, so we need to recolor this. And we'll do that with another layer above this layer. So make a new layer. There we go. Come down to your colors and click on the black. Brings up the color picker and come into the kind of the light oranges in here and click upper right hand corner. And just get kind of a bright orange just like that. The actual color has a lot of variation to a lot of flexibility. You don't have to be exactly on the color that I used to do this. If you want to be, though, the one I used just happens to be FFC 600. Basically, anything in that range is going to be fine. Choose OK. Paint bucket, click on the page, and fill that layer with that color. Now I want this color showing on the heart just to colorize the heart. So let's change our blending mode here. Click on the blending modes, come down to color. So this now colorizes everything beneath it. Obviously I don't want it colorizing all this stuff, so we need to mask that out so that just the heart is colorized. So come down to the heart layer, go over to your magic wand, make sure down here that contiguous is unselected, is not checked. Then click in the middle of the heart. That selects all the transparent areas in here. So the whole thing now is transparent. Now we're going to be inverting this, so select, invert. There we are. So just the heart is selected. Go back up to our color layer and click on the layer mask button. Puts a layer mask on there with just the heart. And there we go. There's our gold tone heart. That part is done. Now we'll put in our ribbons in here, our ribbon effect. Before we do that though, let's just make a slight adjustment here and adjust the drop shadow on this. Notice that when you put the shape on, it came with a drop shadow automatically, and there's a little FX over there. If you double click on the FX, it brings up the style settings. Let's change the lighting angle to 108. This is mostly going to help us down the road a little bit. And let's change the size in here and the distance. I'll make it a little larger, 35, so a little larger, which means a softer edge on the drop shadow. Let's pull it further away, so I'll set our distance here to 73, pulls it further down. The further away it is, the more it looks like it's up off the surface. It just kind of helps that floating effect. And opacity is at 75%, and that's fine. Leave that where it is. So drop shadow settings should be 35, 73, and 75, and choose OK. All right, that's taken care of. Now go up here to the color layer. That's just our top layer. Click on your top layer, and then back down to graphics. We're now going to be changing this to graphics. So it's graphics and graphics. At the very bottom of the list, see, here's our whole big long list. Very, very bottom of the list, at least on Photoshop Elements 15. There's this thing. Looks kind of like a strange ribbony volcano going on. Grab that, and then come just outside one of the corners and begin spinning that around. And when you see the angle down here, set that at 90, so it's right on its side. Now begin pulling out one of the corners. That just sets us over here on our width and our height. Make sure constrain proportions is selected, and then change the width on this to 1034. So it's 1034%, and hit the green check mark. That makes that real large. We can now pull this over and position the heart so it's just kind of straight underneath the dip here. So the rings are right below the dip. What that does is it gives us these overlap areas here just about under the side on the left hand side, and the ribbons come off the right hand side. So it looks nice. And as far as up and down, bring it so that the middle ribbon is coming off of that edge. You don't want that to be on the edge like that. You want to bring it off the edge a little bit. So our off the edge is here, straight down on the rings from that, and we're all set. Okay, back to our layers. There it is. Now I need to have 2 copies of this. So make a copy and drag the copy underneath the heart. There we are. So you have 1 copy under the heart, then the color, and 1 copy on top. So 2 copies. Go back to the top copy, and we'll be erasing this copy, and that's going to give us the effect of the ribbons going through or under or over the gold heart. We'll do this section here, this one right down here, and this one right over there. We'll start here with the easy one. Stay on the top layer there. Grab the magnifying glass and zoom in a little bit here. There we go, right to there. I'll grab this tool. This is the Polygonal Lasso tool. I'm just going to make a little selection right along the edge here and over and right up the edge there. This is several little clicks. Each time you click, it puts a point in, a control point, and just kind of walk on down, come off it a little ways, and then back onto that gold edge, and follow the edge wrap around, and then back to your starting point. Now grab the eraser and go ahead and erase. Now that little question there was just simplifying that layer, which is fine. Just erase that there. Okay. Deselect. Let's zoom out. Hold the Alt key down, zoom out. That's good. Let's do this one. This is an easy one. There we go. Same thing. Back to that tool. Begin on the edge of the gold. Just follow the edge down a little ways like that. Come straight across. Follow the edge up. A little hard to see in here, so you have to kind of eyeball where that should be. And then straight across to close that back out again. Grab the eraser and erase that section. And then deselect. Let's now back out. Hold the Alt key down, back out. And I want to do the bottom one down here. So this is in behind. That's in behind. Let's now get this piece down here. Same exact trick. Only difference here is I want to cut it right across there as well. So, same tool, Polygonal Lasso tool. I'll start right here at the edge of the gold. Notice how there's a bit of a dark area in there next to that. So it's right about here. It's kind of hard to see. It's right about there. And pull that right down along that edge and come off a little ways, straight over. Follow the edge back up a little bit easier here. You can kind of see that in behind. Now when we get up to this section, go right along this edge of that top ribbon. Take clear to the edge of that gold line and come down here to close it off. If it doesn't quite close, just double click and I'll close it off for you. Same thing, eraser tool, and erase that all the way up there like that. Select and deselect. Let's now go to View and Fit on Screen. There we go. So that's now going underneath here, under here, under here. So you have under and over stuff. Adds a bit of complexity in here to this overall thing. Now I want to put in a drop shadow on just the top layer in here. Go to our top layer right there, and layer style, style settings, drop shadow. Now this time our settings, leave the lighting angle as is, change the settings here to 21 for the size, distance at 30, and the opacity at 75%, just like that. Just on the top one, we don't need to do the bottom one. And that gives us a nice little drop shadow stuff going on in there. So there we go. So far, so good. Everything is moving nicely now. We can now work on our fancy little flowers around the outside edge. So staying on your top layer up there, we're going to go back over to our graphics. And still inside the graphics and graphics, we'll just go up a little bit, a couple of clicks, and right there, that thing right there. It's called Silver Flower Spray. Double click on that, and there it is in the middle. Now I'm going to grab the corner and pull this down a little bit so I get my proportions happening. Let's now change this to 380%. And I'm going to change my rotation here to 38 degrees, just like that. And click on that green check. Now to move this, you need to grab just the flowers themselves, right on the little white flowers there. Grab one of those and pull it down. Now it's hard sometimes to grab this without grabbing the wrong layers. So back to our layers, and I'm going to come down and lock each of our other layers in here. Click on the layer, click on the lock tool, just like that. And that just locks them so I don't accidentally touch those. You can ignore that one. Since it's hidden, it's not going to be a problem anyway. Okay, so back up here to the Silver Flower Spray. Now, it's much more easy to grab this thing without grabbing something else by accident. So there's our first one. Put it about like that. Copy that layer. There we go. And drag it up to the upper left-hand corner. Put it about there. Copy that layer. That's up here this time. Grab a flower, move it over. Now I want to change the rotation It's going to come just outside the corner until you see that rotation arrow. Click, and you can then get your options down below. This time change the degrees to -75 and choose OK. There we are. Again, grab one of the flowers and put this upper corner. Grab that layer, duplicate it again. Same thing, grab one of the flowers, pull it down to the bottom left-hand corner. There we go. Okay, now hold your Shift key down, click on the bottom of those layers. All 4 of those silver flower spray layers are selected. Right-click on the name and choose Merge Layers. They're now just one layer. Grab that layer, duplicate that layer. There we go. Now on that one, it's a little hard to see our edges. The edges are kind of off the screen here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Hold the zoom tool, hold the Alt key down, and let's back out a little bit like that. That should do it. There we go. Click on one of those corners, and we then get to see our proportions down here. So set the width to 85%. Notice like on stream proportions is still selected, so we get the width and height are matching. And click on the green check. We can now zoom back in again. There we go. So it gives us a second set of flowers in there, kind of adds to our density. Now I want to pull the background ones out just a little bit, so come back down to that layer. Grab the outside control handle right here. Just pull it out. You see how those pull back a little ways? Do that on both sides just to fill in that edge a little bit. And you might want to use the control key, the up and down arrow keys to move things around to get a nice fill on those sides. So there we go. That takes care of those flowers on the outsides. Let's now add drop shadow to that. Come down here to the wedding ribbons layer. It doesn't matter if it stays locked, that's fine. Right click on the name and choose copy layer style. Click on the first of our flowers up here, right click and paste layer style. Go up to our second layer, right click on the name, paste layer style. There we go. So far so good, everything's looking really nice. Now we're ready to come in and do the text. Make sure you're still on the top layer up there. Come down to the type tool. There we go. And let's change the color. Click on the foreground color, which is yellow right now. Get that little eyedropper. And come in here and grab the light area in here where the ribbons overlap. Should be right about there. Then take that circle and move it straight up. And you get a nice bright pink. The reason why I did it this way is that this is now a bright pink, but it is a pink that matches the ribbons. It's just a brighter version of the ribbon color. So it's full saturation and a little bit lighter. There we go. So there's a nice pink color. Notice as I changed that, it also changed the color over here on the type. Now I'm using Minion Pro Bold Condensed Italic. Any typeface is fine. I think a medium face to a bold face looks nice for this. A little bit of thickness to the lettering helps. If you go too thin, it's kind of hard to see. So a little bit of a thicker letter is fine. I'm just using an italic on that so it looks a little bit nicer. We'll start off with a size of 42 and just click anywhere up in here, doesn't matter. And type in happy and hit the green check mark. There we go. So there's our first word. Let's now go to the type tool again. Change the size to 60 and click any place on the page. Go back to the type tool and click any place on the page, doesn't matter. Type in Valentines and choose OK, that green check mark. Back to the type tool again and click any old place on the page, doesn't matter, and type in day. There we go. Now take the day and just put it down here bottom right hand corner somewhere. Leave it happy about where it is, and let's go to the Valentines and put it down right about here. Back to the type tool and then double click on that so it's selected, or click and drag over the word so it's selected, either way, and change the size to 60 so that's larger and choose OK. So there it is. Now set this so that the Valentines is above the bottom point. You don't want to be hiding that bottom point. If you're right down here it takes away from the design a little bit. So bring it up so you're off of that bottom point a little bit. It's nice if you can see a little bit of that overlap stuff happening in there. So something about like that, that's pretty good. Now take a look around. You want to stay away from things where you have these obvious alignments. Like this point here is clicking on that point. That part of the T or the V is clicking on that ribbon. The S is like right against that. So I'm going to use my arrow keys and just move it up just a little bit so it's not touching those spots. So the point of the V is off that edge of the ribbon and the S is off of that bit down there. Just makes it look a little bit nicer. And move it over to the right just a little bit. Notice I'm not trying to put it in an exact position. I'm just kind of visually moving around, so I'm not really lining up any points. That's the idea. Okay, come down to the day and leave that. Okay, all right. Now that that's all set, we're going to do a drop shadow on this and then an outline. So come down to the silver flower, right click, actually wrong one. Let's come down to the wedding right there. That's one you want. Right click and copy layer style. Go up to happy, right click and paste layer style. That's always want to be copying from the same layer so that I'm always accurate on that. So here's our drop down little drop shadow. We'll now be putting an outline around this happy. So double click on the FX, brings up the style settings, come down to stroke, set this at 7, change the position to outside. For whatever reason in Elements 15 I've noticed that even though it says outside by default, it shows you the inside one. So if that's the case, just click on anything else and then go back to outside and it should look like that. Let's now change the color over here. Click on the color and I want this kind of a medium red right down here someplace. Now the one that I used was C 10,000, so C1 and then 4 zeros. And choose OK. There we go. And OK. We can now just copy that over here. So right click on the name and copy layer style. Click on Valentines, on the name, right click, paste layer style. Click on the name day, right click, paste layer style. Last thing to do is to put day so it overlaps. That's why I have day above. When you do happy, then Valentine's, then day, day is your top layer. So I can then bring this up and overlap it just a little bit like that. This adds a little bit of an interesting effect in there, a little bit of a trick. And that's just adding in. You can see what we're doing here. The whole concept behind this is lots of things overlapping. You know, these flowers overlap the ribbons overlap and underlap that big heart. They overlap and underlap here. The lettering overlaps and a little bit overlapping here. And with the drop shadows, it adds to that overlapping effect, and that's what gives us that really rich look. It's this idea there's just lots of things layered one on top of the other. Okay, now if you go up here to the happy layer, if you did these things exactly the way I did, you'll see this kind of little dent right there. That's just when you cut that middle section out, it leaves a little dent there for whatever reason. I've tried this several times. I always get the same dent in the same spot. So I'm putting the happy right over that so that the A comes over and actually hides that dent for us. It just looks a lot cleaner on that side. So there we go. There's our fancy Valentine's Day card. Everything made completely here inside of Photoshop Elements as you've seen. It took me a little while to explain this, but you've noticed it really isn't that difficult. It looks a lot fancier, a lot trickier than it actually is because we're using a lot of stuff that just included with the Elements program. So there you go, and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com. You can share this video with your friends and coworkers. Just click on share and then click on the social media buttons. Feel free to comment on my videos. I try to answer all comments as quickly as I can.